Welcome to Experts Unleashed, a podcast that aims to uncover how professionals and entrepreneurs transform their experience into income while making a positive impact in the world. I'm your host, Joel Irway, and over the past 4 years, I've helped entrepreneurs develop and launch their expert-based businesses to grow past 6 and 7 figures per year. Now, a professional expert serves their community through paid training, education, or service, and this podcast will show you how to design and execute your plan to become a 6 or 7 figure expert without a big team. So, let's get started.
What's going on, expert? Joel here with a very special episode today for you. I just got off a call with the fascinating Marla Mattenson. And if I were to say just a handful of words, what type of image is going to be framed in your mind? Doula, car crash, mathematics major, relationship expert. How do we tie all 4 of those descriptions together? That's exactly what we're going to be talking about in today's episode. When I finished up my episode with Marla Mattenson, I was just fascinated by how we were able to tie together this story with how she's able to monetize her expertise and connect the dots between her origin story and where she is today as somebody who helps relationship couples, entrepreneurial relationship couples, just better their relationships as business owners. You are going to love this episode today. Make sure that you tune in, pay attention, and when you finish this, go connect with Marla, let her know that you heard her story, and give her a shout out that you heard her on Experts Unleashed. Enjoy this episode. Marla, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Joel. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm so pumped for this interview. So, Marla, why don't we take just a couple of 1 to 2 minutes, bring us up to speed with who Marla is today, and afterwards we will rewind it and kind of go back into the journey of how you got to where you are today and which were the opportunities that you seized to get to where you are today.
Great. So today I am a 7-figure business earner. I work with entrepreneur couples on their relationship and their business. I currently also work with my business and love partner, Julian. And so we basically do everything together. And it's pretty incredible because we lead private retreats all around the world. We've spent a month of at least 1 month a year in France and sometimes 2. And we travel all around and help entrepreneur couples. And then we work privately with couples in lots of different capacities, but primarily in their relationship to really take a look at these deep-rooted patterns that are tiny, tiny little things that actually are kind of insignificant at some point, and then at some point turn into something really big. So we catch them really early. We work with couples who are totally in love, totally doing fantastic in their business, and are dedicated to personal development growth work. These are the empire builders of our time, and it's pretty amazing. So that's the digs now.
That's fantastic. Out of curiosity, why did you decide to work specifically with entrepreneurial couples in the relationship space?
Well, I like complexity. So that's number one. I love complexity, and I have this mathematical brain that just sort of sees all these patterns coming in from one direction and another and where they mismatch and where they could meet up. And it's so fascinating to me to see when couples are having a communication issue that they really don't understand why one person is acting one way and the other person's acting a different way. They're not on the same page. So couples in general, I just think are fascinating. And then you add another layer where they're entrepreneur couples, right? So as you know, when you have your own business, it is a whole nother animal because the bottom line rests with you. And that kind of understanding where you have to be a risk taker on some level if you're an entrepreneur. And so I love working with entrepreneurs because they are risk takers. They have a growth mindset. Because in order to actually have a successful business, you have to understand you have to grow, right? You're not going to just have one thing and that's the thing forever. You're going to have that one thing, you're going to modify it, you're going to improve it, you're going to include new research. And so I'm all about research and really taking a look at what is the next new way that we can up-level everything in our lives.
Awesome. I love where this interview is going to go because number one, I'm also a diehard math junkie secretly. I have an engineering background, so we're going to jive very well. And so I like how your brain thinks and trying to problem solve, complex relationships. So I think that's very, very fascinating. So this show is all about uncovering the different opportunities that you spotted throughout your career. So what I want to do is I want to rewind and start at the very beginning of when you decided to become an entrepreneur, when you decided to monetize your expertise or monetize your own service. What was your first gig as an entrepreneur? Let's start there.
Okay, I'm gonna throw it way back then because that question just activated something new. So I really have been an entrepreneur my whole life. So anything that I enjoyed doing, I would actually monetize. I would make money doing it. So whether it was babysitting, I loved working with newborn babies. Later, I became a doula. So I worked with babies then. I still got paid. And so I made money from pretty much everything. I had a little kids jewelry line when I was young. I made things and then I sold them. So I was always an entrepreneur at heart. And part of it is because I grew up with my father is an attorney and he's self-employed for pretty much his entire career, except for a little bit in the beginning. And so I grew up with, hey, we're going to go to dad's office. Great. I'm going to go roller skating and he's going to work. And so I grew up with this idea of, oh, you can create your own life. You can have your own way of moving through the world. So I monetized really early on. So I love that question.
So how early? I mean, like when are we talking 5 years old, 10 years old, 11?
11. Yeah.
So that's when you started, was it babysitting?
Yes.
Awesome. So you started babysitting, and to keep this kind of as short as, so we'll go on for 4 hours. Let's fast forward from babysitting to becoming a doula, right? So why a doula? Just tell me the genesis story of how you became a doula and why.
Okay, this is super fun. I don't get to talk about this that often. So I became a massage therapist in 1993. And one of the courses in the advanced courses was a pregnancy massage class. And I thought, oh, how awesome. So I became an expert in pregnancy massage. And then at some point, one of the teachers said to me, you would be amazing as a doula. And I was really young, and I looked really young too. And so I said, okay, sure. So I went through a doula training, and then it turned out I was kind of amazing at being a doula because I'm very level-headed. I have tons of energy. I have a lot of patience, and intensity does not scare me at all, any intensity. So it was just like, a hand in glove. And so I became a doula. And then after I became birth doula, what's next? I became a postpartum doula. So I worked with couples after they had a baby. And I also ended up working with single mothers who adopted babies and gay couples and straight couples. It didn't really matter to me. I just wanted to work with babies. And I worked with twins. I became a twin specialist. So I like intensity and complexity. And so the more I could layer in on those things, it was pretty exciting. That's how it started.
So you said something that was interesting, and I want to see if there's any sort of link here. Right, so your first gig was as a babysitter, right? And then you became a doula, but you also said intensity doesn't scare me. What do you mean by that?
Well, have you been in any births?
Oh, yes, I have.
Yes, you have. So there's intensity there, right? When a woman is having a baby or babies, right? There's a lot of emotion, and there's the high and low of, oh my gosh, this is too painful. Can I do this? How long is this going to last? All of the fear and the intensity of the unknown. And so the intensity of the unknown, I think, is something that most of the think about in terms of entrepreneurship, but it's a huge part of entrepreneurship. The intensity of how comfortable can I be living in the unknown, flying blind, living by my vision without anybody else paving the path ahead of me. I'm paving my own path. And so basically that's kind of what birth is. Nobody else has birthed that baby into the world. Only you are birthing that baby into the world, right? And so I guess early on, I had this affinity of just being very calm in very intense situations. And so that led into being able to listen as a postpartum doula in particular, after the baby was born, I would go to couples' homes and I would hear from one partner, "Ooh, this is what's going on. I'm not enjoying this part. This is very difficult." And then from the other partner, I would hear something similar, but through their own filter. And so I'd bring them together to work on communication together to actually understand from both perspectives what's going on. And the intensity of, sleepless nights and, what do we do with this baby and how do you diaper change and how do you breastfeed or bottle feed or what do you do, circumcision or not, all the decisions you need to make from moment to moment with babies and children and if you have pets and family. So all of that, I know it sounds like I'm high energy right now, but I get really calm. I get really grounded. And then I see all these parts and then I help everybody get really intimate and connected together in those intense situations.
That's fantastic, by the way. So when did you discover that you were really good at this? How long did it take for you? When you went through the class and you had your first couple of, birthing clients, doula clients. I mean, I don't know the proper way to say it. When did it stand out that oh, hey, I'm pretty good at this? I mean, did somebody have to tell you, or did you have the self-awareness to realize I think I've got this?
Yeah. The first birth. I didn't know what I was doing. They knew I was brand new. I was their first birth. It was a beautiful, amazing experience. I cried, we went to the hospital together. We went too soon. They said, go home and have a glass of wine. And I was like, have a glass of wine? What? And so we went back to their house and labored more together at home, and then went back to the hospital. And when she pushed that baby out, I just burst into tears, and just, it was like, this is a real miracle. And so, but she and I, the birthing mom, were able to stay really connected the entire time. And at the same time, totally include her partner in the process in a way that he felt amazing and totally comfortable. Meaning he didn't want to be there for the entire thing and have, he also had a full-time job. And so I was there to make sure that if he was tired, that I could step in. And so it was a real beautiful dance with all three of us really supporting the birth of this baby coming into the world. So I knew right from the first one.
That's fantastic. So how long were you a doula for?
15 years.
15
yeah.
years.
I was a doula even when I went back to school. I just really, really loved it. I miss it every once in a while, but I don't want to be on call anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's transition now, right? So you, let's say your first adult entrepreneurial experience was a doula. You were a doula for 15 years. Then something happened, right? So talk about your accident.
Yes. So I was driving down Topanga Canyon in Los Angeles, which is a very windy, steep cliff road. And a car got in my lane around a curve and I swerved to get out of the way. And I ended up hitting the side of the road. And I thought, oh, the car will stop. It was at night. It was like 11 o'clock at night. And the car didn't stop. So the car rolled over the side of the canyon. And I immediately had the thought, all right, God, if you want me on this earth, you better come down here and help. And in my traditional aggressive way. And so then I had an outer body experience, basically kind of flying out the back of the window and watching myself through the rear window, watching myself roll down the canyon. And I thought, wow, this is how people die. But I never once thought this is how I'm going to die. And I was a gymnast from 4 years old. And so I knew how to be upside down. I was very comfortable being upside down. I was very comfortable in my body, still am. And so I rolled down the canyon until a rock stopped me from rolling completely down the hill. So I was upside down, hanging by the seatbelts. There was gravel and dirt and everything sliding into the car. The windows are smashed. And I could hear the creek down below. And I had this one moment of total bliss. Like I was in the womb of the earth or something, like the stream and the gravel. And then I thought, I got to get out of here. So I turned my car off, but left the keys in the ignition. I was watching too many of those Chips episodes where cars explode. So I was like, I better turn the car off. And I ended up hiking up that hill in my socks because my feet were wedged in. I had to take my shoes off. I had leaves and sticks in my hair, hiked up the hill. Couple saw me go over the hill, so they had stopped down the road a little bit, and they came over to help me, and I was by myself. So that was the moment where, oh, okay, let's just pause. And right after that, I took about a month off and really listened deeply. Okay, all right. If I had another life to live, what would I do? And I really just sat with that question over and over. I did a lot of healing. Even though physically I was fine, energetically I was really shaken. And so out of all that meditation and all of that inner work, basically the message was very clear. Go back to school and go to medical school. And I thought, really? Okay. So I thought I was going to be an OBGYN until I started school. I started as a chemistry major, and then I realized the parts I loved were all the math parts. And so I changed my major to mathematics. And I went to community college first because as an adult, that's what you need to do. And then I transferred to UCLA, and I just took on the major of mathematics with the medical and life sciences, which is the largest math major that they have there of how many courses you have to take: chemistry, physics, biology, neuroscience, and math. And so I ended up getting my degree in mathematics and medical and life sciences, which I studied a full year of neuroscience with all the top researchers at UCLA. It was really incredible. So that opportunity where I rolled my car down that canyon gave me a window into a new possibility, because I loved my life. Like, I loved being a doula. I loved being a massage therapist. I could travel anywhere. It was really incredible. And yet I was being called into a greater vision.
Like, it seemed like you loved everything that you were doing up until this point. A lot of times when people pivot, we are pivoting because something went wrong. Like, I'm not talking about, you rolling down the hill, but like normally in our professional career or something in our lives, something goes wrong. So we try to change. But how long were you a doula when this accident happened?
I was a doula for about 7 or 8 years by then.
Okay, so it was about halfway through, because you said you were a doula for 15 years. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so 7 or 8 years you've been a doula, and you're loving everything about it, and then you had this enlightenment moment. And so one of the things that I didn't catch was when you switched into your major to math, what was your intent? Like, because you wanted to become, it was I can't remember what was the major, or what was the field that you wanted to go in before you switched to math?
To be an OBGYN.
OBGYN. So what was your intent when you switched to math? What did you want to be?
Well, I still wanted to be a medical doctor, actually. I didn't want to do OB, but I still was thinking maybe I would get into functional medicine, or I would get into something more on the fringe, of medical practice. And I knew that mathematics was a great major to go into medicine with, because it's not a traditional biology major. And it's really hard, it's really challenging. But actually, you brought something up that sparked something for me, which is when you said, most people pivot from a trauma, really, or something that they're being called to really shift. The real deeper truth is, for me, even though everything was amazing in my life, really, truly, I was avoiding going to school, because I dropped out of college the first time. I went to Cal State Northridge as a journalism major right out of high school, and I dropped out after a year and a half, and to run my own business, and to go back, to go to massage therapy school and start a massage therapy practice that led into the doula thing. So I actually had a lot of shame around quitting school. And part of me wanted to go back to prove I was smart, to prove that I was intelligent. I knew I was emotionally intelligent, but I always had some shame whenever people would say, "Oh, where'd you go to school?" And I'd go, I'd have not so glowing things to say about myself. And so I decided, in that moment, oh, that's one of the reasons, to work through some of that shame and to feel like, oh, I am smart. I can do this. And so it was a real internal process for me of working through some shame.
Love it. Absolutely love it. So you graduate with a math degree. You actually go on to get your master's in mathematics, and you don't pursue the medical profession. Where do you go?
Right. So I realized that I wanted to get a master's in math, and I wanted to teach high school math. I felt like I wanted to work with inner city kids and really help them, just before they become citizens of the world. They're kind of pretty much fully formed, and yet there's still a way to impact them. And so I was awarded a fellowship that paid for my grad school and gave a teaching stipend for the first 5 years of teaching, and lots of other supports called Math for America. They don't have the same type of fellowships anymore. They have master teacher fellowships and other things, but it started in New York with Jim Simons, the billionaire hedge fund guy, and he's an incredible man. And he started Math for America in New York. It's still going, and there's other sites. And so I joined the first cohort of Math for America, and they paid for graduate school. And it was a really incredible thing. And so I took my drive for math and my excitement about math into the classroom. And so I became a high school math teacher in Los Angeles Unified, and I was a high school math teacher for 7 years. I got a national board certification with the help through Math for America. They helped us in support of getting that certification, which is pretty rigorous. You have to take 5 or 6 math exams, plus record yourself in the classroom and comment, and 12-page papers and all that kind of stuff. And it was totally worth it. And I ended up teaching math and pedagogy to teachers all across LAUSD and in Mississippi. And I worked with the U.S. Secretary of Education's office for a short period of time, consulting with Arnie Duncan. And so it was really amazing to just pivot in that way and look for all the opportunities that were right there.
So what other opportunities were we talking about? You said all the opportunities right there. What do you mean by that?
So, some people become teachers and they are just super happy in the classroom, and that's all they want to do, and that is their love. I love people like that. I've worked with a lot of people like that. And then there's those of us who have the entrepreneur spirit, which is we want to develop programs for the school. We want to go above and beyond what's going on in the classroom. We see what's happening on a department level, on a school-wide level, with parents, with community, with the city, with the state. And so I'm more of a big vision thinker. Anybody who spends any amount of time with me knows that if you're thinking big, I'm going to push you to think 10 times bigger than that. And so the opportunities were, I was hired initially at a school with the principal who was very open to me developing programs. And so I did a lot of project-based learning where I took the kids outside of the classroom to teach probability theory by shooting baskets in the court, right, from different locations in the court, and then gathering the student data and multiple classes, and teaching the standing long jump to learn about height versus how far you can jump, and how high can you throw a ball in the air based on how long it's in the air, right? All of the formulas that go along with that. So I did a lot of project-based learning, and that got it some attention. That opportunity that I sparked with the principal to do those projects then led to me being introduced to a man who helped with project-based learning all around the country. And he trained me personally and took me to conferences, and then those opportunities led to the next ones, and like that. So I always had more opportunities than I could even say yes to, just purely, I think, based on my entrepreneur spirit.
Because we're always looking for new ways to continue to expand, right? As entrepreneurs, we are by nature opportunists. And that's why I love talking to other experts, is because we see the opportunities. And that's what I want people who are listening right now to understand, is that they're literally everywhere if you know how to spot them. So I want to try and connect something here. I want to ask you a question. With your experience being, your 15 years of experience being a doula, and 7 years of experience teaching high school math, those are it seems like they're two completely separate fields, right? What are the similarities that somebody on the outside like myself, who has never been in either of those two professions, what would in terms of skills of being able to perform those duties, what types of similarities did you see?
I think this is a great question. I'm so enjoying this interview right now, by the way. Side note, the similarities. So first of all, you will never get hired as a doula or anybody who's really going to help anyone through something intimate unless people trust you, unless people can feel your genuine desire to be of service, your genuine desire to support them, that you believe in them, that you're a safe place to land. And so the way that I have the ability to articulate my expertise in any field, whatever I've done, whether I was a doula or whether I was teaching, people tend to feel very safe with me. So if someone has the problem that I solve, like for example, when I was a math teacher, if students came to me and they were like, I just don't understand this, I hate math. I worked with both the very, very high level students who were in calculus, AP Calc, AP Stats, and also the very low level students, meaning they were really struggling with basic things like basic level algebra. And so all levels of those kids were able to find a safe place in me, in the way that I teach, in the way that I was able to share, hey, I'm holding you to a really high standard here. I have massive belief in you and what's possible for you. And let's get you there. Like, that's the ideal. And here, the way that I could communicate that was not only with my words, but how I would follow up with it. And so the through line here is communication, total belief in the person and people that I'm dealing with. Even the kids, like I worked with a lot of gang kids and kids coming from really disadvantaged backgrounds, where literally like a parent would be deported the night before a final exam. And so, what do we do with that? And that's a real issue. So instead of the kids just running away, they would come to me. Just like as a doula, instead of running away from a problem, my clients would come to me and say, hey, I'm struggling with this with my partner. And so they would open up and share more of what's going on truly inside of them, which allowed them to actually reach more of the greatness that they wanted to experience, whether it was in math or whether it was in something else. And so personal connection and really believing in people, I think, is the foundation of all of the work that I do. I don't take on anyone that I can't believe in, you know? So does that make sense?
Oh yeah. Fantastic. I mean, so I think what's incredible is that you have to establish a serious relationship with them. So you earn their trust, but in order for them to trust you, you have to provide that sense of security and that sense of safety for them to know, like, okay, if I say something, I know it's going to be well received. I know that I'm going to be able to get help to solve this problem and solve this situation or this crisis that I'm currently in. And I know you've done a lot of work in studying the communications field. And I think that that's primarily a testament to your expertise in being able to communicate clearly. Because if you can't communicate clearly, you can't build that trust and people can't trust you. Yeah, I mean, I was just repetitive there, but I think you understand what I'm getting at. And so I see it clearly with you and in being able to solve these complex problems. It all comes from people being able to trust you. And I think that's fantastic.
Yes. And I just want to say one more thing about that is that because I earned their trust, then I was able to really gently and yet effectively push them right into their greatness, meaning push them beyond what they thought was possible for them. And whether it was that they could get through the next contraction or that they could really, take care of the baby, or whether it was getting through the next math exam. Like I created a math anxiety program, the Math Anxiety Cure, and I taught it to all my students. I taught it at UCLA to the math department because guess what? Even math majors get math anxiety, And so when people really trust you, that's when you can push them really into their greatness. And you can really say, hey, let's go beyond what you think is possible here. Because I know what's possible for you. It's bigger than you think, right? We can always see that in other people so much more than we can see it in ourselves. So we need people like me, like you, that see the bigger vision and really help people, amplify what they're doing. And so that other people go out in the world and serve too.
Awesome. Okay. So let's make the next pivot now, right? So we've talked about your experience as a doula. You went and got your master's in mathematics. You taught 7 years in high school math to inner city kids. When was the pivot to what you're doing now as a relationship coach, a relationship expert for entrepreneurs? When did that happen?
All right. So the pivot, that's such a great pivot. So I live my life 100% by my intuition. And I don't say that lightly. And so what happened was about 2 years before I actually let go of the teaching profession, I felt the pull. I felt like, oh, the next thing is brewing. I don't know what it is, but I know that it's brewing. And so what happened was I started to listen to that, and I chose to go through a program that helped you create, it was like a coaching program that helped you create your packages and VIP days and retreats and things like that. And I had already done coaching for many years and been trained, but I wanted like the next level. And so I audited that program. And then through that program, I ended up meeting some people who we started a mastermind. And the woman who ran that program, I decided to go and study with her coach. And so I hired a very high level entrepreneur, business mindset, money mindset coach that basically helps people go take their annual income and make it their monthly income. And that's what he helped me do. And so I basically went from knowing, okay, I'm totally into teaching, I want to be a teacher, to, oh, it's time to shift. It's kind of like Seinfeld. Like Seinfeld left at the pinnacle, right? They didn't wait for it to go downhill. So I was really at the pinnacle of my teaching career. I was really at this amazing place where I had a lot of impact, and kids were getting incredible results, and teachers were feeling more connected and bonded. And I chose to really listen to my calling, which was, it's time to go back into coaching couples. And so I worked with this coach, and he really helped me to see what's possible for me. So he did for me what I'd been doing for others all these years, which is he was able to help me see, oh, I can believe in myself as much as I can believe in others. And that's all I really needed to shift into my expertise and shifting into, okay, really coaching couples, but more than just coaching them on relationship, coaching couples on their relationship and their business, where they mirror each other, right? Where whatever you're doing in your relationship, you're also doing somewhere in your business, and vice versa. So the fun thing is, we can literally start anywhere. You can tell me about your business, and I can tell you how you're showing up in your relationship in some similar way. So you start healing it in one area, it's going to impact all the other areas when you bring awareness. So I could talk about it all day and night.
As you should. But what's interesting, the language that you used when you said, I went back into coaching couples. I went back into coaching couples. You're not doing doula work anymore. But the way that you worded it, saying I went back into coaching couples, and I want to make this a very clear point, because it's, when I work with entrepreneurs and experts who are trying to kind of find their offer, find their niche, do whatever is going to provide them the lifestyle that they want, they get so hung up on, okay, here's my background, here's my experience, here's what I've done in the past, but I don't know how to make that a viable business model. So it's like, you didn't go back to working with doulas, but you still took the same skills, and you still wanted to work with couples, but just in a different format. And I can only imagine that working with couples as entrepreneurs is much more lucrative than if you're to be a high-level doula. I mean, that's just a shot in the dark, but I mean, I'm assuming it's more lucrative.
It is much more lucrative. And I do want to say that when I coached couples back in the day as a doula, I also, more often than not, ended up coaching them on their relationship also. So I did other coaching on their relationship. Also, I ended up working with my couples when they were pregnant on how to clear karma for their incoming children. So the simple idea there is, if your parents did a little extra work on themselves before you came into this world, your karmic load would be a little lighter, right? And so just a little, right? And so when my couples would do some work, and we'd take a look at the family patterns and how they want to show up, and imagining the baby already here and how you handle when the baby starts screaming, and they would start clearing karma for their incoming children and have an easier transition into being parents. So I had actually really been coaching couples for many, many years.
So you had already seen the opportunity, and I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, so you already saw that opportunity when you were a doula. You're like, okay, I'm doing a little bit extra when I'm working with these doula clients. So you knew that there was probably some form of opportunity that you could seize when you went into doing what you're currently doing now. So my question for you is, I'm fascinated with offers and how people create offers. So when you went back and you said, okay, you felt your intuition, which I love, by the way. Intuition is huge in the entrepreneurial space, which opportunity is all about intuition. That could be a whole other podcast. But when you said, okay, you felt the pull, you're going to go back into coaching couples full time. Was this your first idea? Well, was your first idea to work with couples in the entrepreneurial space, or did you go through a few different iterations before you landed on this one?
Great. Okay. So here's what happened. I hired my coach. His name is David Nagel. Fantastic coach. Highly, highly recommend. And I went through a VIP day first. And in the VIP day, what happened was, wow, how do I say this? We went through a lot of my own personal material, and it was very clear for me to really nail that I am a relationship and sex coach for couples. Like that was my first entry. That's what I decided. Yeah, I want to work with couples on their relationship and sex and intimacy. And over the course of about 6 months or so, I realized, oh, it's more than just relationship and intimacy. It's relationship, intimacy, and business, because I've been an entrepreneur most of my life, with the exception of the 7 years as a teacher. And it's my first love is entrepreneurship. And it's where I came from. And so it developed very quickly into, oh no, this is specifically for entrepreneurs. And then of course, other couples come to me. You don't have to be an entrepreneur to work with me. But if you don't have a significant stream of income coming in, it's not appropriate to work with me, right? Because entrepreneurs make money. I can help elevate their business. So if they feel nervous about hiring me because of what I charge, that's okay, because I can actually help them up level so that they can bring in the money to pay. It's not a big deal. So, and it's harder to do that with people who have a full-time job where they have, a fixed income, which I don't believe in fixed incomes either, because even when I was a teacher, I got hired to go teach in Mississippi. And, there's always more that you can do to up level if you're not happy with how much money you're bringing in, even if you have a fixed income.
There's the opportunity seeker at heart.
Yeah, right? Opportunities are everywhere. They are everywhere. I mean, I was flying home from an event, Chris Winfield, of course, where we met. I was flying home from his event, sitting in first class, and, the guy next to me sparked up a conversation. Turned out he was the president of CBS television in Los Angeles and offered for me to be on his show, to be on KCAL 9 in LA. And that's just from talking to someone. It's just opportunities are everywhere. You have to actually not be looking for opportunities to miss them, because they are just everywhere if you're really open and using, like you said, using your intuition.
So let me ask this question as we wrap up, because we're getting to the top of the hour. I always like piecing together connections, right? So let's go back to you being a doula, and let's go back not so far to your first paying client as the relationship expert for entrepreneurs. How was that experience with that first paying client versus the first doula client? Was it a similar experience, being like, oh, I know this, like I know I'm meant for this? Like, because when you said you had your first doula client, you're like, wow, like I nailed it, I crushed it, like you knew that this was what you wanted to do. How was that experience as your first high paying, relationship client?
Oh, yes. I'm so loving this. It's like a reflection for me to dive into myself. It's so cool. So it was amazing. The first couple that I worked with as entrepreneur couples, really helping them, it was pretty phenomenal. It was, they got results immediately. They started uncovering patterns that they didn't even know were there. And then the ease in which their business started moving forward was just off the charts, because what was happening in their business, they were working together. And what was happening is that there was so much tension between the two of them that they both felt isolated and alone in the business. They both felt like, God, I'm just handling everything. I'm taking care of everything. They both felt like that. And they both felt disconnected. Intimacy and sex was not happening. And so after working together just even for about a month, all of that started to calm down, and they started to have compassion for each other. They started to turn towards each other in times of conflict rather than to, go in opposite directions. And so it took a good significant amount of time. When couples work with me, it's a 9-month program. And so we really go in deep, and it's not a year for a reason. It's just 9 months, and isn't that kind of funny, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, is it 9 months because of your doula experience? Come on.
I think it might be. It's like, hey, if you can make a baby in 9 months, you can transform your relationship in 9 months too, right? And technically it's 10 months, right, for to make a baby. But we like to say 9 months. So yeah, I have a 9-month program. But yeah, it was pretty phenomenal right off the bat, I have to say. And that might sound arrogant to some people, but it really is. When you know your material and you know communication and you know what you're doing, when you see the patterns in other people, it just logically comes together of how to channel that information so that they know what they're doing. They know how to move towards their next steps and to get the results. And I just want to say that it's not just me with all my training. I'm channeling. I'm connected to God, source, universal energy, whatever you want to say. It's coming through me. I'm just a vessel here. And so I get myself out of the way more and more and more so that can easily and effortlessly really channel through me. So people get results.
That's fantastic. Oh, Marla, I've had a blast. This has been an excellent conversation. We went all the way through we started when you're a natural born entrepreneur. You've always been an entrepreneur, from babysitting to becoming a doula, then having your pivot moment when you rolled off the cliff, which was, I'm sure, very, very scary. Went back to school, got your master's in mathematics, taught inner city high school math, and you loved that. That was for 7 years. And then you made the transition back to coaching, relationship advice for couples, specifically for entrepreneurs, and that whole lesson of making sure that you focus on people on your clients who have money, because you can help make a bigger impact for them. I mean, there's a whole lesson to be learned with that, but this has been a fantastic interview. Did I miss anything important? Any important details in all of that recap?
I know. I think you nailed
it. Fantastic. So where can people connect with you? Let's drop some links. Let's spread the love.
Oh, great. Thank you. Yeah. MarlaMattenson.com, MATTENSON.com. And a couple things on there. One is that I'm now the relationship expert for entrepreneur.com, which is amazing. Nice. So I have a weekly column on there. It's a Dear Marla column. So if anybody wants to ask a question to me about relationship, business, intimacy, anything like that, there's a spot on my website where you can actually ask me a question, or you can read the articles and share those. I would appreciate that. Or, of course, Facebook or Instagram, Marla Mattenson.
Fantastic. Marla, I had a blast. Hopefully you enjoyed this conversation. I know that the experts who are listening today and who are listening to this episode, they can take away so much knowledge on being able to pivot and knowing that your core focus and your core expertise that's led you through all of these different journeys has been communication, and that one primary skill set has been able to be applied to every area of your life. I'm a huge proponent of focusing on that one skill set, because that can be applied to so many different areas of your life. So thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for spending time with us today. And everyone else, thank you for listening to today's episode, and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care.
Thanks so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we look forward to giving you the next one. Now, if you want additional trainings and content outside of the podcast, I release exclusive video trainings on my Experts Unleashed YouTube channel. And if you'd like to come hang out with thousands of other fellow experts, join our Facebook group community where we do hangouts and webinars to help support you in your journey. Finally, if you'd like my personal help to develop, launch, or scale your business, contact me directly for private consulting opportunities to see if any spots are available. And you can find all of the information above at expertsunleashed.com.